Because we are so identified with the body, I am the body. And even though we say, oh, the body's not self, that's just a concept. But really, deep down, we really feel this is my body. So by doing, I think that by doing this awareness, objects in awareness, I'm using that pattern. Listen to sound. Sound is in awareness. Feel the body. Body is in awareness. So you start to emphasize awareness as conscious space, rather than me being aware in this body and I'm looking at you, which is not untrue, all right? But this other way of perceiving is foreign to us. So it's a kind of persuasion of, okay, you think you are the body, right? But do this and see what happens. And you start to get a different kind of sense. Well, bodily sensation comes and goes, comes and goes, comes and goes, comes and goes. Sounds come and go. But awareness, the background, consciousness, space, that seems to be silent and present all the time. A very sense of presence. And so the identity, I think, with body begins to be challenged. Just through your experience, not through an idea that that you're not a body. That's just an idea, And that's one of the really difficult things to do as a human being, because this is my body. And it's my pain, it's not your pain, And yet when you die, what will be there? There'll be hopefully awareness of change. So it is a kind of preparation for death in that sense. But more than that, it's a movement towards the space of consciousness, the space of awareness, rather than this holding to the body. 32 parts of the body is a kind of standard Theravada formulation that comes from Visuddhimagga. And Visuddhimagga is a very formalized kind of teachings around all the samatha objects. But Visuddhimagga comes very, very late in the traditions of Buddhism. And so my experimentation with that was too conceptual. It was too much about me trying to notice that. And I was more interested in awareness rather than the body. And that what is the relationship of awareness to body? If you do yoga nidra, if you try that, and you do bodily sensations as I'm suggesting, then you get a sense of a whole body awareness. And then you can play around. You say, does the body have a boundary? Now this takes a lot of silence. If you think, does the body have a boundary? You're just thinking. You're not really noticing. You place a question into the awareness. Is there a boundary to physical sensation? And you'll find, no, there's no boundary. The sense of me being bounded by the body. And so the clinging to body as self is altered. And also your perception of awareness begins to be altered too. The idea that I am aware in a body as opposed to the body arising and ceasing in awareness. And that's of course the way we talk about the world in the meditative part of Buddhism. In the conventional part of Buddhism, the world is a real place where you and I live, and we have our responsibilities and we have our histories. But then there's also a way that the world is that which arises and ceases in this fathom-long body. You'll read. The perceptions and conceptions are what create the world. And that's what you're moving to with this kind of a practice. And that's where the transcendent freedom lies. Conventional goodness lies in sila, dana, and so on. And then the liberation of the heart lies in non-attachment and non-grasping. And those are words which are also mistaken. Like, I'm too attached to my children. What does that mean? Like you shouldn't feel what your children are about or something like that. So we get these shallow ideas of what non-attachment is. But when you start to do this kind of body meditation, you begin to see, it's identity with the body that we're concerned about. I am this body, this kind of concrete idea. And when you challenge it, well, no. So like this actually kind of plays into other suggestions I've made. I said, and I've only made it once or twice, but you need to get the mind to silence to do this stuff. If your mind's just chattering away, you got to figure out how to just be silent and just be quiet, right? So that's important. And you have to be awake, etc., etc. So there's a kind of basic foundation of presence and basic samadhi, which you need to do this kind of investigation. So then you're exploring awareness itself. Usually we don't explore awareness. We explore the objects of awareness. It's you're always on the Vedana or whatever. You're always on the Vedana or always on the breath. Your mind's always at it, actually, on objects. So reversing that, the mind knowing the mind, is a kind of investigation of awareness itself. We usually don't do that. But if you, so the suggestion I made was, first of all, be silent. And in that silence, then pop a question, does awareness have a boundary? And if you're quiet, you'll see, no, there's no boundary. You won't find one. But what you'll find is a great silence through that question. And you don't need an answer, really. You just get a sense, oh yeah, it's boundless, silent. Then you do the other one, you say, is there a center? No, but the same silence. And that undermines the identity that I am someone who is aware. Because in Dhamma we say that the conditioned and the unconditioned are not self. So the sense of embodiment as an individual I. So if you take the question, okay, you say, I am aware. There is awareness, yes. There is consciousness, yes. But is there an extra little bit called I? Where is it? So now you're not just believing in anatta or it's just some weird philosophy, like there's nothing. It's not saying there's nothing, there is awareness. You're actually saying, okay, I am aware. Okay, fine, is there awareness and a bit called I? Or is it just awareness? And you look. Silence again. Always takes you to silence. Always takes you to silence. If you can get past the constant thinking, if you're thinking all the time, oh, I don't know, is there an I? I can't find an I, it doesn't seem to be an I. Then you're not really looking, you're thinking. Looking is not thinking, thinking is thinking. Then you can if you're exploring awareness, you can one of the things you might play with is this is more subtle, but bring the mind to silence. Now listen to sound. Okay, is awareness the same as sound? No. Quiet. And then, is awareness separate from sound? No. And again, you touch the silence. Each time you touch the silence, do this kind of existential inquiry. I mean, you're inquiring into the very nature of consciousness, of awareness. We usually don't do that because we're always on the objects, trying to sort out the objects. And that, I think, is a bit of a danger in some of our practices, that even though we might call them mind, we're still on objects. And when the objects are not held, then the mind again goes into its turmoils. So Ajahn Chah he would say you can do meditation practices that suppress the mind and make it quiet in that way, which can be very pleasant. And he equated that to having a large rock on a field of grass. The rock suppresses the grass. Take the rock away, the grass comes back up. So that's when we, and those aren't bad things, but they won't be liberating. So what you find in your own history of meditation practice, you might do things which seem to be very successful, but then you're back to the same kind of habits of mind again. And there's a kind of disillusionment there, I think, a healthy one. I say, well, that can't be it. That can't really be it, because it changed. It began. So the tendency to be inspired by that falls away, because you've done it. You do that, and okay, well, quiet, and then ba-dang, it goes on again. That can't be it. And you realize it's the awareness of objects that's important, not the holding of an object. At least that's my. Others will disagree with me. I'm fine with that, but you can only reflect on it. But then, and from that consideration, that's why I tend to say, first of all, establish what the awake mind is. Listening, and I kind of toggle between sound and body, and say, is it the same? Is it different? Is this in awareness? All that language is trying to encourage awareness, even though objects are coming, going in sense experience. Then from that, I'm trying to encourage people. Then, okay, that's hard to do if you don't have any focus. So localize your attention on something, but emphasize the awareness. Awareness of change is doing the same thing. Anicca sanya. When I emphasize, like, that's the digger probably, right? Or is that your furnace? Anyway, I hear a sound.
Yeah, on the background.
Yeah, in the background, like a kind of grumbling sound, sort of low sound. So then, when you take anicca sanya, like the perception of change, it's not about the sound anymore. It's about awareness of change, and that also takes you to awareness. If I'm trying to say, well, what is that sound? Is that the furnace? Is that the digger? Is that the neighbor? Then you're in the sound trying to figure it out, which is valid. But now you're just kind of trying to be the witness. And the witness of change is particularly a brilliant Buddhist idea, because it always brings you back to the silence rather than draws you out. So when we talk about anicca, it's not just some, again, as I said earlier, a simplistic statement that things change. I mean, Mickey Mouse knows that, right? Or at least Donald Duck. But this is more profound because it requires a lot of presence to do that. So you're listening to sound. What's the changing nature of sound? You can't go out there, you stay here. It takes you to the same silence. There's different ways of using your intelligence and your capacity to investigate, but not just think all the time. Not just try to figure out everything with thought, because that's hopeless. To bring the mind to keep coming back to that same silence of awareness. Makes sense? Yeah. Yeah, it's subtle. Yeah, it's subtle, but terribly interesting.
So when I play around the body part, right? So the awareness that when I try to play, even I watch inside, there's one energy, especially when I watch the spine, all the bone is moving. So this is the mind or the shaft of the awareness. I can feel the...
Don't try to figure it out.
When I have doubt, just say...
Yeah, just say, well, it is what it is.
Oh, okay.
If you... there's a beautiful piece from Lompo Liam, his writing on his own enlightenment, and I think it occurs in like 1969 or something like that. And he's meditating like many hours, doing walking like 12 hours, things like very, very strong, and has very profound experiences. And his mind says, so what was that? He says, it was what it was. And he just keeps staying with that. And that's the genius of not getting involved with sankharas, and yet allowing his enlightenment to sort of unfold. But all the time, you read about it, you say, wow, you just kind of totally wow with this thing. And he says, and it was what it was. And it doesn't get stuck anywhere. So when you get a sort of abnormal experience of the spine, then your mind says, oh, what was that? And then you're in the object again. you're not with the awareness of change. If you remember just to say, it is what it is, then you give up doubt. And this is where doubt is the hindrance. It's always in there trying to figure something out. Anicca sanya, they're not figuring, it's just changing. But that might not be sufficient. Yeah, but what is it changing to? And what does it mean? And is it good? Is it bad? Now, obviously, if you start to feel your right leg is being damaged, you go to the doctor or whatever. So we're not being stupid about it. But that constant need to figure out is a kind of attachment we have, because we have analytical minds and we need them to figure things out. But in this case, it's the awareness, it's sustaining the awareness that's important. All right.
You mentioned Napoleon Bonaparte.
Say again.
You mentioned Napoleon is the same Napoleon Bonaparte.
Napoleon Bonaparte.
Yeah, who was the world conqueror. You mentioned the Napoleon, 1969.
When?
No, Ajahn Liam.
Oh, Ajahn Liam. I was worried about it.
Wow. Longpa Liam is the abbot of Wat Anachat, and he's the successor of Ajahn Chah. He's brilliant monk. Yeah. L-I-E-M, Liam Bonaparte. No. He has a book you might look up on the internet. If you go to one of our websites, all of our monasteries, it's called No Worries. And in it there's his biography. And in the biography he describes his practice and his enlightenment. Very inspiring. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes?
Yeah. I have been doing that the lying down meditation that you suggested.
Which one?
Lying down.
Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah, and it's extremely works on me. Like my concentration is like 80% more.
Great.
Because I have a monkey mind and it's all the time, jumping here, but I find it out I am more concentrated when I'm lying down like that. But I just want to make sure if it is okay to use it like in my everyday practice, and when I'm cold, if I when I'm doing it, if I'm cold, can I like put something on myself?
For sure. Be comfortable. It's not ascetic. Be as comfortable as you can. Put a duvet on. and then trust in the results of your practice rather than quite often, because you're laying down and that's not meditation, it's not even painful. The idea that meditation has to be painful to actually, which is weird, the idea, really. So you feel guilty. Oh, this is really nice. I could probably do this for 10 minutes.
Honestly, but I was thinking at the beginning, am I loving it because I'm lazy? But when my concentration went better,
trust that.
I trusted that.
Trust your, any results you get, just trust. If they're good results, they're good results, And if they're good results, you'll be able to repeat them. Not from greed, but from wisdom and skill, and that's what you're developing. And just keep saying, well, actually, this works quite well. And then when you sit and it doesn't work quite well, you say, oh, that's interesting. And why doesn't it work quite well with this? So sometimes you get an insight from one posture to another. But, you have leg issues and, you're not young anymore, so the body actually finds it difficult to hold itself up. And it's a brilliant posture. It really, really is. So develop that. Also, while in that vein, say, a lot of people, as we get older, sleep patterns get disrupted. It's harder to sleep sometimes or not. And then, like if a person's used to waking up at 6 or at 5, 7, whatever, and they wake up a couple of hours earlier, they look at the clock, then they don't really want to get up yet, have a long day or whatever. So they go back and forth, rolling back and forth and back and forth. And actually, there's a lot of unskillful mind states being indulged in, I suppose. I don't know what the word is, but you're in a lot of, oh God, I can't fall asleep. So if in that time you just say, well, why don't I try Yoga Nidra? I don't have to get out of bed. I don't have to get rid of my duvet. Got my pillow. What's the problem? So then you just you kind of lay down quite deliberately now, and then you are awake. If you fall asleep, fine. But if you don't, those 2 hours actually can be incredibly restful and productive because you haven't gotten caught in minor irritation and dosa or strange dreams or whatever. You actually had lucid calm, lucid clarity. So it's a brilliant way. And oftentimes people say, well, I fall asleep in this. I said, well, do it when you wake up. Okay, so you fall asleep for 2 hours in Yoga Nidra. Then the third hour, do Yoga Nidra. when you're actually awake. Or, when you wake up in the morning, have your coffee, right? Have a shower or whatever, go back to bed, do Yoga Nidra. So it's not a posture to put you to sleep. That's not the idea. When people do that, they say, well, I use meditation to fall asleep. Really? Is that going to be helpful? So then when you meditate, is that really a skillful perception to develop? Oh yeah, meditation is about... No, meditation is about being awake. So Yoga Nidra certainly might help you to sleep, but then when you wake up, wash your face, right? If you have time, if time permits, and go back into that posture. Now you've got a lot of energy. Now you can explore it. It's it's underused, obviously, because it's, for one, people think it's cheating. And I think another thing with lying posture is it's portrayed in the canon on the right side, which is hopeless, because your whole right side just falls asleep. It's all crushed. You can't, I've tried it. This, I've tried that, I've tried this. I said, that can't be. So then I went to the yoga schools and, Yoga Nidra, sure, yeah. And then Savasana, now that makes a lot of sense. Make sure that your knees are, your back. If you start to get any neck, I found I had neck issues because I had my neck too high. Okay, get your neck right. So it is a formal posture, and you figure that out that you can be comfortable. Then you'll find you can meditate for 2 hours, 3 hours, and it's actually very interesting. And then the kind of things about body awareness. You see, the body is in awareness as vibration, and then the kind of solid sense that I am the body. So trust in your insights, and everyone, if you get a good result from your practice, it's a good result. Okay, trust in that. Should we all lay down now, or? No. I've never done a public meditation with Yoga Nidra. I'm terrified of doing it. Because what'll happen, half will be snoring. Someone suggested that we build a stage at the monastery, and I just lay down on my back, and then we have mirrors on the ceiling. I can see everyone. But we're not going to do that. Any other questions?
I had a question, but I wasn't sure if I was going to meet you later. I should ask now.
No, ask now, then it's done.
Yeah, I just wanted to, about trust and awareness. I think I know you're going to answer, but I want to trust and awareness. So what's going on, just daily, meditation, so I just want to gauge, because there's a lot of restlessness, a lot of busyness in the mind. So the awareness is there. I think it's there. And the only way I can gauge if it's actually there is when I leave the meditation. Then if it's peaceful, then I think I'm aware, because the mellowness of the busyness and then watching those two.
What's your question? I don't get it.
I want to know if to get a sense, am I really being aware? If I can trust this awareness, I only know when I leave the meditation, I finish like a 30-minute sit or
Sounds like you're doubting.
Yes, it's doubting. So
you're not trusting in awareness. You're trusting in doubt.
Because I'm unsure, because there's so much restlessness.
Yeah, but you're still trusting in doubt.
Yes.
Because unsureness is a state of mind.
Correct.
And then you're defining awareness as something.
Right.
Then unsureness comes up, and rather than knowing, oh, this is unsureness, you start going, well, am I really aware or not? So you're not seeing the doubt as an object. It's not the awareness that's the problem, it's the belief in the unsureness. Am I really being aware or not?
Because I let that creep in, so I need to watch that. As soon as it creeps in, watch that.
Yeah.
To get the quality, not the quality. See, I always think of it as a quality awareness. It's not quality awareness.
So you're trying to get an experience called awareness.
Yes.
And awareness is not an experience, it just knows. So you're looking for something rather than being with what is. That's a fallacy that many people get caught up into. That awareness is some kind of crystalline clarity or strong sense of or whatever it is, and then whatever way you define it, then you start to look for it. You don't see that kind of patterning. I would suggest that that's what it sounds like to me. And then the sense of doubt comes up. But awareness, in any moment, you can say it's like this, and it's not an experience. It's like this. So I would ask you to consider that you think awareness is a certain type of whatever mind state, and that you try to look for that, and then you're not sure if you find it or not. So there's a whole sense of me, trying to find awareness, and then the patterning of the doubt around the awareness, and then the thought, and am I really being aware, am I not? So there's a lot of attavada in that, a lot of sakayaditi in that, me being a person that's aware. Whereas really, at any moment, you can just say, well, it's like this. Right? But if the doubting mind, it's like this, yeah, but am I being aware? So the doubting mind will take you to thought. Another way is just to kind of abandon thinking. So if you keep thinking, am I aware? Then you're just thinking. So then the strategy is quite simple. Don't think about it. So when your mind's, I'm serious, right? I'm not just dismissing it because it's hard to do. When your mind starts to, am I really being aware or not? Don't think about it. Don't go there. So that's the hindrance of doubt. It's partially sakayaditi. It's partially the fetter of doubt. It's a whole mix of self-view in there. All kinds of avijja, say. And then you tend to trust your thinking mind to sort it out. So you're trusting your thinking mind to make you aware, but this doesn't work that way. So then don't go there. And that's easy for me to say, but if a habit is in there for a lifetime, and that's the way the mind picks up a sense of self, and picks up an object, gets caught in objects, then you have to kind of make an adhitthana to use that as a practice. And then try to be diligent, not to suppress thought. So when you notice the mind then thinking in those doubtful ways, say, don't go there. Don't think about it. Don't know. That kind of ujjupatipanno kind of practice. Yeah. Does that make?
Yes, I do muddle things up with the experience, because I think of I have a background quality of mind, a purity of mind, because taste it and then it's mine.
Yeah, and it's just a memory.
Part of that, in the memory.
It's just a memory, yeah. And then there's a sense of self.
Yes.
And I had this, and now I want that. And it's just very complicated. Whereas awareness is very simple. And that's why trusting in awareness is actually a very elegant solution. But our habit is to trust in the analytical mind and thinking. And it's not that we see it. It's very insidious, because it's been the dominant conditioning of the the neural pathway, say, right, for so many years, and it just goes down that avenue so very easily. So first of all, you have to agree with the analysis that I'm giving you. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But if you see that it makes logical sense, then you have to say, well, I'm not sure, maybe he's right. Okay, let's say he's right. Okay, so what do I need to do? You need to make your intellect very clear on that now. If you modeled it now, is it really true or not? I don't know. Maybe I should try. Then you're still in the same model. So intellectually, you can clarify things in a moment of now, right? And then intellectually, you can then start to remind yourself, what is the path? So then that's a deliberate right thought, as opposed to the insidious habit, which will come up and which will muddle all that up. So you can think strategically, I suppose, is that what you call it? Or, you can think deliberately and make it clear, okay, this is the path, right understanding. And then the other can be challenged by that. And then the challenge becomes your own insight, don't go there. Don't go there. And you probably have to do that once every minute. Or once every 30 seconds, really. Because it can be so urgent and true and necessary, right? Because it's been what's been sort of true. And these are the moha characteristics. Moha is much more difficult to see than anger. Anger's got lots of energy, so it's actually easy to look at. I mean, it's unpleasant, but you kind of. But moha is like insidious; it just creeps up on you and then populates your consciousness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. I need the reminder. It's helpful for you to remind me than me to remind myself.
And then write it down.
Yes. Okay. Thank
Put
you.
notes on your fridge. Like put a note on the fridge saying, "Don't go there." Then put a note on by your computer. Don't go there. I had one of the ladies that was coming to the monastery. She had food issues, so she got depressed. She overate and things like that. So she put a note on her fridge. The problem isn't in here, or the solution isn't in here. Something like that. That's a good idea. So even though you might agree with it, right, you have to, this is the kind of skill of adhitthana. You make notes in your tail, and all that stuff that we do. You keep reminding yourself. They're hard habits, yeah. But if you ask me this again next year, I'll give you a hard time. The fear of the Lord will be with you.
Okay.
No, seriously. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to share my experience about the lying down.
Yes.
Because first time is like so relaxed, right? But it's not always. The second time, the knee, when it was relaxed, in sudden shock,
Pain. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's good because then we can see the body and the mind. They are two different things.
Yes.
Right? And then we can see also the change from relaxed to pain and then gone.
Yes.
Yeah.
What I think happens in Yoga Nidra, I think you get memory pains too. I had this like with the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the operation on the shoulder. It was quite painful. And then I would be doing Yoga Nidra, and I'd have this real pain, physical pain, but that was very different to the pain I had had all the days before. And it seemed like it was memory coming up through the body. So I think Yoga Nidra allows things to be liberated from the body like that. But I interrupted you anyway.
Sorry. But when after the pain, right, I noticed, this is the pain. Right? It's gone. And come up again, it's a pain, gone. And after that, nothing.
Yeah.
And it was so good, I didn't fall asleep.
There you go.
I can see like when almost fall asleep 2 times. One is like I can see from the stage where I wasn't mindful, gone.
Yeah.
Right, and then come back again. Right, and then the second time is like I was like teleported. Before it's
Before you fall asleep. Exactly. Yeah.
It's like I think like make the awareness sharpen faster.
Very much. Yeah.
Lying down.
Yeah, it can.
Like sit down on, right?
And there's something of the stillness of the body that's something like now I have to move because of my knee, right? There's something about the stillness of the body there's something profound about that, the stillness of the mind.
Yeah, because then I can see.
Yeah. You keep developing that, yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe next year we'll have the Yoga Nidra people will be up there. And there'll be 2 people down here. Very popular. So yeah.
Yes, Lungpa. So from what you taught us, I really appreciate it. I think it gives a lot of clarity in the mind to split the object, the foreground, and then be at the background. So we only become the knower of what's going on. So during my practice, sitting down, using the phrases, I think it's really helped in Christine's case as well. So have so many monkey mind. So I keep asking, who is thinking? So when I did that, then I can come back right away to the present moment. And then I just keep silence and see what's going on. And I feel peace. I feel good. Then it happened again. And I can see, the past thought just end. And just be quiet. Not very long. And then come another one. And then keep doing that. So, in certain situations, the mind is very restless, so doing this practice of awareness really helps. Now, how about, let's say, on a calm morning, when I try to sit down, maybe after this retreat, then I start with, being aware of the body, like you taught us, right? And then develop more consciousness. And my regular practice is anapanasati. So I'm breathing in, breathing out. So I would like to get your guidance. Is it right that when the mind starts to stray away from the breath, that's just the time I have to introduce this awareness again, or how to incorporate those both?
Right. Well, I think the basic thing is, first of all, you understand the awake mind, which you do. And then I think the second thing is the skill in noticing the arising of thought. And the better you get at that, as thought arises and its momentum tries to inhabit consciousness, there's enough awareness to know thought has arisen. And you don't go there. And that you can do on a retreat you kind of get good at that. In daily life, you've got a heck of a lot of information you're processing, and you make a lot of intentions, which then produce thinking. So the thoughts aren't produced deliberately as you meditate, they're produced during the day's activities, the intentions. So thought has to be more, the volume of thought and the intensity or the energy of thought is going to be more naturally because you've stimulated the mind more. So you have to accept that your meditation won't have the same quality of silence or stillness that a work day would produce. And if you allow that to be, then thought is no longer just this intrusion. So I think you need to make that conscious that there is going to be more thought, and that's natural, that's not wrong. And why I say that is you don't want to just use anapanasati to try to suppress thought. You don't want to do that, and that's a danger. The good thing of anapanasati is it grounds you in the body. It keeps grounding you in the body in the way of awareness. So that's what you have to look at. Are you reverting to the breath because you're trying to get rid of thought? You can only notice that as you're meditating. Or are you notice, oh, thinking is there, planning feels like this, what does the body feel like? So you very deliberately establish awareness, and then you go to the breath. If you don't really establish awareness and you just go to the breath with force, it'll make you think more.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what you have to investigate in the use of any technique. So again, if you are establishing, like let's say you've got a work-related complexity that now comes up into consciousness, it has to, that's natural. And you say, oh yeah, that's work, that's memory. And then you're present. And then you pick up the breath, you get a good result. You won't get a good result. And so it's always establishing the way things are. And that's where, like, if there's thinking patterns, if you can identify the kind of pattern is, it's worry, it's planning, it's memory, in a very non-analytical way, just in a rough way, then you know, okay, that is the energy of the thinking mind now. That's what's going to, and that sort of forewarns you, that's what's going to be coming up. And you kind of are more aware of it as it arises. But the main thing is not to suppress thought with the object of awareness, but to awaken and then sustain awareness with the object. Right? That's a very important point in the thinking mind.
Okay.
Yeah?
Not just quickly go back.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
You have to be aware. Oh,
Yeah.
what's going on?
Oh God, there's thinking. We all do that, right?
Yeah.
Oh God, thinking, so try harder. I have to try harder. and because we don't really awaken to the what's going on.
Yeah.
So I think that's where, like, Mahasi tradition of labeling, can be very helpful. Its downside is then you try to figure out the label. Is this uncertainty or is this doubt? And you're just thinking again. So, but if you just say, oh yeah, that's work, feels like this, then okay, that's the karma of it. Yeah.
And the other thing, I'm very happy that you taught us the Four Noble Truths, especially the Tanha.
Uh-huh.
So that is the cause of the suffering, right?
Right.
And you explain in different way that we normally know sensual pleasure or sense desire is the cause, and then bhava tanha and vibhava tanha.
Mm-hmm.
But you give us a broader explanation of the no preoccupation.
Right.
So that's very helpful in terms of the daily application, how we should actually work on our tanha based on that examples, and non-becoming, how to be aware of the desire so that we do not be reactive.
Right.
Is that right understanding?
Yeah.
And then the last one is non-resistance, so that we don't create aversion or rejection towards things that we don't want or don't like. Right? So I try to put that into practice, because I have also a problem on this leg, and almost joined the chair club.
You're welcome.
So yeah, it was painful on the sitting, and I try to see the desire, and I just being aware of the desire that the leg want to move.
Right.
And I just used as much as effort as I can last night, and I see, it's fine. I can handle that, and it's go away, and then it come back again. I tried quite many times. It's kind of work. So at least I think that I try to be able to be aware of the desire arising, want to move that leg.
Good, because this is a pain body. It's just its nature. So the more you can learn that lesson, the better it is. But then again, you don't want to then make meditation always an endurance of pain, because you stop meditating. You'll think, oh God, okay, I can see the desire around pain, but do I want to do that again? And you'll tend not to want to meditate. Being willing also then to join a chair club. And yet, if you join a chair club, then the floor club becomes more difficult to practice in. So it's a trade-off. But physical pain can actually be a source of peace, but also it can be a source of exhaustion, because you're always kind of working with pain. So a comfortable body, you can, investigate like the space more. Right? Not that you can't do that with pain, it can show you the space. So sometimes people get deeply peaceful states of mind because they've been with the pain. But then pain is a biological signal, right? So it's going to be demanding, hey, wait a minute, it's okay, you can meditate, but I've got to, it's going to say, stop doing this biologically. So you want to respect both of those. What you don't want to do is just endure pain. That doesn't work, because that's just willfulness. You want to understand pain and the desire around the pain and have that insight. And those insights, if you keep doing this in whatever way you do, always pay off. Because, when you're sick or when the body is dying, then you've got that background of, oh yeah, there is awareness. It's not just the pain. So they're brilliant insights. But you find some kind of majjhima way around this. Because like with my knee, I've had operations on these knees, and it took me a long time to come to the chair, and I thought, why did you wait so long? It's just so comfortable now. So there's something about, like for a monk, to be on the floor, right? To be on the chair, that's cheating. You wimp. You're kind of wimping out. You're kind of macho mindset. But it's just a mind, And that's why, like, the Yoga Nidra seems like the ultimate cop-out. And yet, the results can be very, very good. Very good. All right?
Thank you.
On that only question what Surya mentioned, when you are in body meditation, then you find those sensations, some kind of pain or itching or any kind of sensation. Do we say just it is as it is and move forward, or wait until the cessation of that sensation or pain?
Well, you're coming from the Goenka method, where you have to keep moving. Is that correct?
Yes.
Well, you don't have to do that. You don't have to keep moving. That's just Mr. Goenka. That's not Buddhism. Well, it is a part of Buddhism. You just have to be aware. So you don't have to go from one point to another point to another point to another point. That's just his method. And so it doesn't really matter. What matters more is that you can be awake to the way things are and look at desire.
Yeah.
And so the question comes up, should I move away or not? Or have I got enough sensations there yet or not? It doesn't matter. Or like, oh, I haven't got any sensations in my left elbow. I better stay there. But that's just programming. Whether you have a sensation in the left elbow or not doesn't matter. Awareness isn't the sensation, right? And like, should I spend 2 more minutes here, or should I? That's just a kind of analytical approach to awareness, where what we're really just trying to sustain awareness to the way things are. That's why choiceless awareness is a good thing to exercise in. Because the trouble with the techniques that we have, all these techniques, there's always a sense of a doer. I am doing something. I'm going from point to point to point to point to point to point to point. There's me doing, me doing, me doing. What's anatta? What's anatta? Where does that come in? How does that come into it? So you start to see, you start to look at the very sense of me, the doer, within the technique. Oh, wow. There's a me doing this, there's a me doing this, there's a me doing that. And what is that? And you start to look at that, me the doer. And as you start to look at that, you come to this idea of the mind knowing the mind. Huh? Rather than always being kind of compelled by a sense of self to do this. So then you know that becomes a kind of interesting investigation where the whole use of techniques, you start to think, I know how to do that now. And what if I don't do that? What happens then? And you start to appreciate maybe just choiceless awareness. What if there isn't a sense of a doer? So it's an investigation of sense of self in a more subtle way. And then your mind goes all chaotic, and then okay, you go back to your technique. So one common pattern that you find meditators will do, they'll have some good techniques to ground themselves into the present. But once they have that, they really begin to question, well, who's the doer? What is this doing all the time? What is that about? And that's very intuitive. You think, what? Can't still like, and you say, okay, who am I? Who's meditating? Who's thinking? That's what that's coming to, or the mind going the mind. And you always come back to the same silence. And as you come back to that silence, then, what if I just sit as silence? And I don't feel compelled to do something. Just that. And you find, it's all moving. Oh, but there's the space, there's the background. So these are the explorations which take you beyond techniques. If you're always on a technique, it can pacify the mind, but there's always the doer. There's always the kind of guy having to do something. And if you've got a very strongly conditioned technique, and the teacher says this is the only technique, all other techniques are wrong, right? And this is really what the Buddha taught. Well, then you're really in trouble, because then you're in a sect. Only this is true, nothing else is true, or any other, and then you're stuck on almost fearful not to do the technique. Oh, this is the only technique, which is not what the Buddha taught. He taught so many ways. So you want to really be intelligent in the use of your technique rather than driven by sort of cultural necessity. I must do this technique in a certain way.
Yeah, just another question related to that. So you taught us a very good tool, and never realized that how people not only take in breathing, they never talk about out breathing, but you told us that it's a very good tool of out breathing and get into that space. And once you are this, you are aware of that. So when you feel same kind of another pain there, so you have to, because you are aware the pain is there, so you have to wait, give some time for the suggestion, because that is it has a nature. Arising and ceasing. So you have to wait for that suggestion of that particular pain, or you keep on focusing on your awareness.
You experiment.
Okay.
You're willing to take a question. You're willing to experiment and make your own discovery, because that's where you get confidence.
Okay.
You don't need permission, right?
Yeah.
As long as you understand what the awake mind is, you understand about tanha, and you understand that silence is an interesting place to abide in, then you do things like with the pain. Maybe you say, okay, what if I just feel the pain on the end of the out-breath? What will that feel like? So you explore. And then your exploration, this is called Dhamma Vicaya, investigation of truth. And that enlivens the mind. When you have a phenomenon like painful in the knee, you think, well, that'll be interesting to look at. It keeps you in the game. It's like sleepiness doesn't keep you in the game, it takes you out of the game. So pain can keep you in the game. And then you decide to explore it. Well, what if I just, like you're saying, what if I just don't move? Or what if I move? There's no fixed game plan. But the exploration is mindful. And then you see the result. What's the result? So you find maybe like with the pain, you stay with it for a while, you say, what if I go to a place that has no pain? Like here, there's no pain. What if I abide there? What would that feel like? And then maybe I'm emphasizing the pain too much. So you've got to have permission to really try anything. And then the results usually are what guide your future meditations, because intuitively, that was good. You understand at that level. Yeah. Who's meditating? It's the ultimate question. Shall we, any other, well, we can have another session this afternoon, so let's do some meditation, yeah? Stretch your legs a bit if you want.